Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Oh, it's so great to have you here. I'm so touched that you all came out for my sermon this evening. Thank you. What's so funny? It's my singing, that's what it is. Well, one knew it was one of the two. Well, tonight,
I get the night off?
Yeah, exactly. So, in lieu of a sermon, I'll give a very brief teaching, but we're going to have our service is going to be a little shorter tonight, so that we can give more time to our speakers. But thank you for joining us. Maybe I recognize we have people of different faiths here, and that makes me really happy. And so we have tonight, we are going to we're going to start off by singing how good it is for us all to be together with Hine Matov. And you can find that, I believe, we're going to be using the blue book, Mishkan Tefillah, on page 128.
Hine ma tov u'manai, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manai, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manai, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manai, shevet achim gam yachad. Rabbi, those
Get
words,
her.
Rabbi,
Get her.
those words attributed to King David, Daoud, are about brothers and sisters dwelling together. And it's wonderful to see brothers and sisters from multiple faith traditions here
Amen.
tonight.
I love that.
And not all of them may be familiar with some of our customs, especially when it comes to use of the blue technology you have in your hands.
Great for bringing that up, Cantor. So one of the best things about Shabbat is I heard about some folks who weren't Jewish, but they decided every Sunday for them, they were going to have a day without technology where they just got to connect with each other. And this rabbi said, that is amazing. What do you call that day? And they said, Shabbat. And so for us, though, our Sabbath begins Friday evening and goes till Saturday evening, which is why I got a picture right before services start, because once our services start, we put our phones away and we make sure that we are present with each other in real time. Something my kids can't imagine is like being able to see people, not through a screen, but just in person. So we put our phones away and we just connect with each other.
And in order to allow you to be more present with us, especially if you're not familiar with our traditions, is that our books open not from left to right, like an English book, but from right to left.
How about that?
And because our Hebrew language reads from right to left, much like Arabic does, and other Semitic languages and Middle Eastern languages. But just in case you can't read Hebrew, our book includes...
Don't worry.
Yeah, we've got
Stop worrying.
We've
got you.
Translations and transliterations for you to be able to participate fully in this service.
Absolutely. And what we're going to do now is turn to page 142, and we're going to sing a song about peace. And it's Shalom Aleichem, which means peace be upon you. Or if you're an Arabic speaker, you might know Salam Aleikum. It's the same thing, Shalom Aleichem. And what we learn is that on Shabbat, it's like there's a little angel on our shoulder telling us good things that we can do. And we have to listen to that little angel and be like that ourselves. You can find this on page 142.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem leShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון, מי מלך מלאכי המלאכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. צאתכם לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון, מי מלך מלאכי המלאכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא.
We'll turn back a few pages to page 138 and sing a song called the Hadodi. And what we learn is that when we come together on Shabbat, it's a wonderful feeling. It's supposed to feel like a wedding. And in fact, there's this midrash, this tradition, that all the days of the week paired up with another day of the week. So Sunday paired up with Monday, Tuesday paired up with Wednesday, Thursday paired up with Friday, but what's the problem? We have an odd number of days. And so Shabbat was all alone. And God said, I will be your partner. And so when we are witnessing Shabbat coming in, it is much like we are guests at a wedding, witnessing this union come together. And so we're going to sing that. Page 138, we'll do verses 1, 2, 5, and 9.
Lecha dodi likra kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likra kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shahamor v'zachor b'dibur echad yishemiyanu el hamyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad v'shemu tiferet v'li tila. Lecha dodi likra kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likra kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki mekor haberacha merosh mikedem nesucha sof maaseh machshavat chila. Lecha dodi likra kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likra kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, hitoreri, ki va'orech bo mi'ori, uri, uri, shir daberi, kevod Adonai, alayich nigla. Lecha dodi likra kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likra kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela.
It's now our custom to rise in body or in spirit and face the entrance to greet Shabbat.
Bo'i v'shalom ateret bala gam b'simcha ובצהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי כלה לך דודי לקרא כלה בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקרא כלה בני שבת
You may be seated. And this time we bring some light into our world as we are preparing for. What are the matches? Do you know where they are?
They're with my batteries.
Oh, let's see. It looks like somebody took the matches from up here. Somebody right now is nervous because the rabbi's not happy. All right. We are going to stall for a second, and we are going to, just as we greet Shabbat, we are going to turn and greet one another and wish. I found the matches. The rabbi wasn't looking hard enough, and we are going to greet one another. They were hiding under the kippot here.
Oh.
And so how about you turn to somebody who maybe you don't know, wish them a Shabbat Shalom, welcome them into our synagogue. We're thrilled you're here. Found them. They were hiding. I got backup batteries here.
I found some.
Okay. Nice.
Thing. Yeah, totally nice. No one's messing with me.
I don't think so. Got them. I got them. They were hiding under the kippot. Yeah, there was a stack of kippot, and they were hiding underneath them.
Can I take those off for you?
Sure. Are those yours or?
I brought them up for the
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
B'nai Mitzvah.
Oh, I can
All right, folks. And as we come back together, what I was starting to say before my matches played hide and go seek with me was that Shabbat is a time where maybe we don't use electronics and we don't turn on lights, but we create light ourselves, and we are the light in the world, and we think about how we can be partners with God in creating a brighter, holier world for us all to live in. And of course, we have some speakers tonight who are going to be doing that. So I would love to invite up our guests, Hannah, Avshalom, John, Imam, Metar, and also can I bring up my friends, the Simananis also? They're going to be mad at me. I'm going to invite you up. No, if you want to. I won't put you on the spot. But if you want to, come on up here. You guys are bringing light into our community and into our world. John, come. And I'd love to invite you all to light our candles for us as we welcome in Shabbat. That's all good. Come on over here. Avshalom, okay, sit. Here, come on over here. Would one of you care to do the honors? Sure, please. Yeah. Let's join together.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu להדליק נר של שבת.
Amen. Thank you so much for being here. You guys can go back to your seats for right now. Relax before we put you on the spot. We're going to turn now to page 144, I believe, for the Hatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
ואלמד יברח חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכונו יומכון וחיי לכל בית ישראל בגאלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו
Amen.
יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה יתברך וישתבח ויפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה
Rehu.
לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ואמרו Amen.
We're going to turn to our call to worship the Baruch Hu on page 146. I'd like to invite you to please rise in body or in spirit. on page 149. And what we hope tonight, by the way, is it's really easy to have conversations with people you agree with. Haven't you found that? Like, it's so easy when I'm in a room with everyone who agrees with me. And also sometimes we don't talk to people we disagree with. But sometimes that's what's necessary to create change and understanding. And so that's what we hope through this Shabbat will happen. It's not just that you'll hear people you agree with, but because sometimes we bring speakers and the people who come are the people they don't really need to be there because they're just going to hear something that reaffirms what they already believe. But what we're going to be hearing about tonight is something that perhaps will change every person's mind here or every person's approach of how they interact with others. And that's a beautiful thing. So let's read together on bottom of page 149. This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? ומעביר יום ומהביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני, המהרי והרבי. Amen. Page 150, we read this as a reminder that God loves all of us.
We are loved, loved, loved by unending love, an unending love. Try with me. We are loved, loved, loved by unending love, an unending love. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael amcha Torah חוקים ומשפטים אותנו לימדת. We are loved, loved, loved by unending love, an unending love. כי הם חיינו ויורך ימינו, ויורך ימינו, ובהם נגד יומם ולילה, יומם ולילה. We are loved, loved, loved by unending love, an unending love. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל.
152.
שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד.
Page 154.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, amen.
In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth.
The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love.
From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way.
Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces.
Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed.
Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
So we hope and pray as we sing this song when we were given our freedom from Egypt and freedom from bondage, that one day people everywhere will know freedom and that we will all be able to enjoy peace as well. Page 158.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש. Adonai, who is like you, Adonai? When Moses and the children crossed the sea, they sang to you with songs of joy. Who is like you, Adonai?
Page 160, Hashkivenu, a prayer where we ask God to watch over all of us, that we might go to sleep tonight in peace and wake up tomorrow to a better day also in peace. And particularly over the last couple of years, we've been praying that all children over in the Middle East will be able to go to sleep one day in peace and sleep throughout the night comfortably and not afraid, and wake up tomorrow to a more peaceful world. Page 160.
Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, leshalom. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, leshalom. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, leshalom, hashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, leshalom. Lift us up, Adonai. You'll spread your wings over us all. Keep us safe and bring us peace. Leshalom, leshalom, leshalom. Hashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, leshalom. Hashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, u'shalom. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, leshalom, leshalom, leshalom. Baruch atah Adonai, haporeh sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim.
We're going to turn now to page 162, and something that we are taught by the founder of the Cultural Zionist movement, by the way. Well, we're good. All right. So by the founder of the Cultural Zionist movement, which is a man named Ahad Ha'am, which was, as long as it is that the Jewish people have kept Shabbat, it's really been Shabbat that's kept the Jewish people together. So we are going to turn now to the top of 162 for Vishamru.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל עוד היא לעולם, עוד היא לעולם, עוד היא לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, שבס לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, שבס לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש.
You have better lung capacity than I do.
שמרו בני ישראל את השבת, שבס לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all the time. We will rise in body or in spirit for our Amidah, page 164.
Baruch atah Adonai
שבו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל, אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא עולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. פרי המוהב בעל גבורות, ומדום אליו, ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה. קדוש בשמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יעלו הסלע. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. We continue on our own, 172 through page 180, or you can use this as an opportunity for the prayers of your heart, and when you're finished, you may be seated.
עושה שלום במרומיו, או יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. ואמרו Amen. May the one who causes peace to reign in the high heavens cause peace to reign among us, all Israel, and all the world, and let us say
Amen. We are going to turn to page 371 at this time for our prayers for healing of those of the mind, body, and spirit. From middle 371, Misha Beirach.
Misheberach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
This week we think of these members of our community and their loved ones who could use a prayer for healing. Aryeh ben Yaakov Mordechai, Baruch ben Sarah, David Shlomo ben Dina Leah, Gila Chaya bat Mordechai Lev Gila Leah, Gittel Leah bat Masha Hana, Itka Vega bat Gittel, Rachel Liba bat Moshe Menachem Mendel Begittel, Suai bat Sarah, Tova Chava bat Chaya Rochel, Svi ben Yosefa, Israel Beryl ben Cherka, Yitzhak Meir ben Yehudi David Laban, Maria Allred, Sarah Bell, Ed Bronsky, Sam Doctorman, Angela Eno, Rowan Fay, Martin Goffin, Jan Hausman, Tamara Kipper, Fran Lappin, Tanner Light, Megan Magleby, Benjamin Olson, Gary Shapiro, Burden Salzman, Penny Spector, Adina Stern, it's nice to see you here, and always praying for you, Michael Winston, and Judy Wolf. And if you have a name to add, feel free to share when I look in your direction. Vicky. If you're watching our live stream, I'll invite you to share a name as well.
Misheberach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I said I wasn't going to give a sermon, but you did give a rabbi a microphone. So, really quickly, we're in Parshat Noah, and that's the story of Noah's Ark. And a lot of people have said the Torah should really begin next week. Why do we have last week where we have the story of Adam and Eve in creation, and why do we have this week with Noah in the Torah? They weren't Jewish. Next week, we learn about Abraham. He was Jewish. Why don't we start with him? Why are we learning about these non-Jews? Well, it's in there for a reason. One, last week was awfully important because we understand that it doesn't say that the Jewish people were created in God's image and likeness. It says that every person was created in God's image and likeness. And this week, though, we have the story of Noah and the great flood. And there's a message there of universality, in a sense. Like, if you think about it, what it's saying is all of us are related. And I don't just mean like in the Utah way where there's an app that you can pull up and see how you're fourth cousins with somebody else in Utah or whatever. I've seen that. That's a crazy Utah thing. But but more of how we are all connected in some way. And there's 613 laws in the Torah. But I know we have people of different faiths here. And so if we have Christian friends here, who eat pork. That does not make you a bad person. You're not violating any law. That's something that we have to do. And that's why no Jewish people here eat pork. Okay, you, Shapiro. And if you are, and there's other things, like if you're a Muslim, I don't know Islamic law as well as I know Jewish law, but in Jewish law, we have things where we're not allowed to combine two types of fabric in the same outfit, like, cotton and wool in the same fabric. But if you're a Muslim, is that part of Islamic law too? No? Okay, your religion already makes more sense. But anyways, so if that is not a part of Islam, and a Muslim person is doing that, that's okay, because they're not bound by these same laws. But of these 613 laws, there's a few of them, less than 10, that apply to every single person. So let me ask the Christians in the room, are you allowed, is it a good thing to needlessly torture an animal? No. Christians are telling me, no, that's not part of, that goes against your faith, right? And Imam, would that go against your faith as well? And, what does Islam say about murdering innocent people? Not good. Christians feel the same way. Jews, we feel the same way. And so these laws are called the Noahide laws, and they are ones that are required of all the descendants of Noah, which is each and every one of us. So we get this message of how we are all connected, how we are all from the same root, and when we pick on another person and we don't see holiness in them, one, we are creating an act of blasphemy because they were created in God's image. And if we don't see that godliness, we're doing something wrong. But two, that we are bound by a common sense of humanity. And then at the end of this week's Torah portion, so we get this message of how we're all kind of the same. But at the end of this week's Torah portion, we have this story of the Tower of Babel, where these people said, let's build a tower all the way up to the heavens. And God sees them doing this and not appreciating the world around them. And God decides to knock over this tower, and to make sure that they don't do it again, divides them into 70 different languages. Now we can look at that and say that this is a punishment. Or we can take a look at this and say, God wants a world with diversity in it. God wants a world where we are different, where we speak differently, where we think differently, where we act differently. And so I'm so glad that tonight, when we're going to have this event in a little bit, that we are in this part of the Torah that has this universal message that we are all the same. And at the same time, has in it a message that we are not all the same. We are all the same, but we're all different. And that's exactly what God wanted, is for us to have things in common and to be connected and to all be imbued with that holiness, and at the same time live in a world where we don't all think the same and where we don't all see everything the same and where we are not the same. That's what God wanted, and that is why this needs to be in the Torah, so that we can learn that message and realize it is all about us, and it's not all about us at the same time. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
We are, before we move on, I always like to acknowledge our staff I see here. Danny Berman, our executive director. Lisa Kaufman, our office membership director. Lana Stoddard. Anything you want to say about tonight's event? No? Okay. Our communications director. And see your kiddo here too. And I saw Paul from our maintenance team. And a big shout out to Stefan, our security, who's here tonight to make sure that we all are safe. I appreciate that. And also, I always love to give shout outs to our, when I see elected officials here, I see my good friend and our state senator for our district here at Colomie, Senator Stephanie Pitcher here with her daughter. We're honored to have you, Senator Pitcher, and honored by your friendship and representation as well. Thank you for being here. And I'll acknowledge some other friends later, but I do also always like to acknowledge our board members I see here. I see Dove DeLay. Dove, thank you to you and Beth for a wonderful dinner. I hope you all enjoyed that. And also, so I don't miss any board members. Board members, raise your hands. I see Melanie Stein-Grayson over here. I see Ken Guerin back there. I'll get to you, Faye, but anybody else? Any other board members I missed? Okay. Don't want to ever miss you guys. And Faye Lincoln, our president of our board of trustees. Faye, do you have some announcements to share with us? Because you guys are going to have our visitors are going to have so much fun tonight. They're going to want to come back more and more and more. So let them know what's going on here at Kolami.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Rabbi Spector and Cantor Davis, for leading us this evening in services. Thank you to our very special guests, Hannah Bedkowski, John Munier, and Imam Mohammed Mehtar. And thank you to our board member, Dov Delay, for our wonderful dinner tonight. Thank you for that. Following our service, please stay for our program, Interfaith Relations, after October 7th and the war in Gaza. It truly is wonderful to have you all here and to listen to this panel. I know that when this idea first came up, I was amazed at how quickly the community came together in anticipation of having you here, so welcome. And join us tomorrow morning for Ellen Schaefer's Bat Mitzvah service. Our other upcoming events include the KAJY's Havdalah and Fall Festival at Cross E Ranch, Saturday afternoon. Our 8th annual Pups in the Park on Sunday at 11 a.m. The unveiling for Rabbi Wenger of blessed memory on Sunday at 1 p.m. at the Montefiore Cemetery, followed by a celebration of his life at 2 p.m. here at Congregation Kolami. Our next Young Adults Rafi event to discuss Israel's past, present, and future is on October 29th.
And bring your questions and criticisms to that. There's free drinks and food.
Wonderful. Coffee and Community is back on November 2nd. That's always a very crowded event, so we hope you'll join us. There's information in the program on that. Our annual meeting is on November 5th at 6 p.m. to schmooze and 6:30 p.m. call to order. Please attend or send in a proxy. We need a total of 75 voting members to conduct business. And our Rosh Kodesh Women's Group Understanding Homelessness event is on November 11th. We are currently collecting women's hygiene supplies. Donations can be dropped off in the bins in the foyers or ordered from the Amazon wish list to be delivered directly to Kolami. Please donate to our 5786 annual appeal. Your generosity makes all the difference. Your support helps us to provide diverse programming and promote interfaith relations. Registration for the next congregational trip to Montreal and Toronto will be June 2nd and the 7th, and registration is now open. Please contact Rabbi Spector for more information. For more details about these or all other events, please see your program with the Shabbat announcements and our website. As always, we're grateful to all of you, to our members, volunteers, donors, and guests for your participation and support. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Faye. And we are going to move into the concluding part of our service, always my least favorite words to say, as we turn to page 586 at the bottom of the page. Also, I want to shout out, because they're probably here somewhere too, Galit Livney and Lindsay Perlman, who are program coordinator and our assistant program coordinator, who worked so hard to put this all together tonight. Thank you to them. And we are going to rise in body or in spirit as we open our ark.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ויוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר בחיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. This time we think of those whom death has recently taken from us, and those who've died in this season years past, and those who we draw into our hearts with our own as we remember them. If you hear the name of a loved one, you're invited to rise upon hearing their name. In the period of Shloshim, the 30-day period of mourning, we remember Marin Mirsky, brother of Carolee Barak, Patricia Mest, mother of Kate Tran, our congregant Joyce Rains, Roger Sandak, brother of Susan and Art Sandak, and also we remember Elaine Cohen, a Jewish person who's laid to rest in our cemetery today. And as always, when bodies of hostages have come home, we read the names of those who've come home this week, and when they have died, share their name as well. This week, we sadly, with broken hearts, welcomed home the bodies of Tal Haimi, Aryeh Zalmanovich, Israeli Arab Mohammed Al-Atrish, Tamir Adar, Ronen Engel, and Thai farm worker Sontaya Okar Rasri. And this week, we commemorate the following Yortzite's anniversary of the passing of these loved ones: Joseph Asbel, Carol Asman, Ava Cohn, Marianne Einhorn, Philip Evdasin, William Goldberg, Herman Goldenberg, Molly Goldstein, Jack M. Green, Daniel Lewis Grosser, Louis Hintelef, Jacob Hess, Herbert Kahn, Joseph George Kesner, James Kirkwood, Al Kremen, Sadie Levy, Susan Ruth Litvak, Sarah Owens, Fred Pepper, Sarah Reva Rubin, Herman Schwartz, Mendel Shapiro, Marion Schur, Asia Sorokin, Abe Tannenbaum, Ruth Teutsch-Schwager, and Willa Urich. And if you have a name to add, I'd like you to share when we look in your direction. Condolences. And if you're watching our live stream, I'll also invite you to share a name. Zichronam Livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. If you're in mourning or it's your tradition to do so, I'll invite you to rise. We're on page 598. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei rabah,
Amen.
ve'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chaychon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dehol beit Yisrael, ba'agalah uv'yizman kari v'imru.
Amen.
Yehi shmei rabah mevarach le'olam olamei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitrumam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitolal shmei dekudisha,
Richu.
le'ela mikol berchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'ne'emata, ta'am yiram be'alma v'imru.
Amen.
Yesh lama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru.
Amen.
Osei shalom b'mrovav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen.
Amen.
May the source of peace and peace to all who are mourning comfort the bereaved among you. Can we say Amen?
Amen.
Kendra, do we have a concluding song? Shalom, salam, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, let's look and see here. How about... It's not a bad idea. Just want to make sure we get the page number.
Yeah. How about, I don't know if it's in our book or not. If not, let's turn, what do you want to do?
How about...
Oh, I found it, 657.
657. Okay.
657, let's sing a song of peace.
Let's see what it is.
At the bottom of the page. You know this, join in with us.
Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam.
I'll invite you to rise in body or in spirit for Kiddush.
ויחולו השמיים והארץ וחוזבם ויכל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו כי היבו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. סברי
L'chaim.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי הגפן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו ושבע קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו זיכרון למעשה בראשית כי הוא יום תחילה למקרא קודש זכר ליציאת מצרים כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת
L'chaim
לחיים.
Tovim. And we are going to, at this time, we have a wonderful looking challah here made by my buddy Moshe. Stacy's is one of yours or Moshe's? That's Moshe's? All right, might have been Stacy's, might be Moshe's. Stacy's becoming Moshe's apprentice here. So let's join together for Motzi, and I'll pass that around. You can take some.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם המוציא לחם מן הארץ. תיאבון.
Devon, Shabbat Shalom. Yes, and have a seat.
שבת שלום, שבת שלום, שבת 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 שלום, שבת שלום, שבת שלום, היי, שבת 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 שלום, שבת 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 שלום, שבת 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 שלום, שבת שלום, היי, שבת שבת שלום, שבת 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 שלום.
Shabbat Shalom. That concludes our service, but if you want to stay for the program, the main event, that's what we're going to do now. So as these guys set up for us, let me tell you a little bit about tonight and how tonight came to being. So let's see, 2 years and about 2 weeks ago was a very challenging day for our world when October 7th occurred. And every day since then has been hard and painful and challenging for everyone in the world, I think. I think that's fair to say. And question here, by a show of hands, who here has maybe lost friendships because of this conflict? Some of you have. Okay. Who here has been called an anti-Semite because of this conflict? Or Jew hater or anything like that because of this conflict? A couple people. Who here's been demonized for supporting Israel because of this conflict? Some of us have too. So many of us have lost friends as a result of something happening on the other side of the world. And that's been really hard. And this kind of program came to fruition because I too have lost friends. And every rabbi I know has told me my interfaith relations have gone down the tubes in the last couple of years. All my rabbi friends who had Muslim-Jewish dialogues pretty much have told me those aren't happening anymore. And that's sad when people can't talk to each other. That's a tragedy. Thanks, guys. And I'll tell you, though, yes, I have lost friends. I've also grown in some friendships. I want to give a shout out to a couple of my friends here, or interfaith partners of mine. I see my friend Pastor Curtis Price back there, and I see my brother, as I call him, Avais Ahmed. He tells me that I am his favorite brother. Sorry, Arish, I see you here. But biological brother, I guess. But I feel like my friendship with these two guys, and they've been instrumental in helping with this, and Pastor Curtis hosted our panelists the other day. Again, I don't know exactly where they stand on this conflict. I know that we don't all agree with each other, but my brother Avais, he, instead of judging me, asks me questions. Tell me what it means when you say you're a Zionist. What does that mean? What does that mean in terms of the Palestinians? And he seeks to understand me better. That's helped us grow in our friendship. And my friend Pastor Curtis here, after the murder of Ariel and Kafir Bibas, those babies, sent me a letter saying, I can't imagine how painful it was for you and your community to see these two Jewish babies come home in coffins and people celebrating around that. And again, didn't say anything about his own personal views, but showed me compassion of something that was hard. And that's what we need more of in our world. And how some of this event came to light, too, was a little over a month ago, I sent an email out to a bunch of clergy saying, I feel like my community isn't being understood during these last couple years. Here's a film I recommend that you watch so that you can understand my community better. And one clergy person sent me an email back saying that I'm a horrible person, a terrible person for being a Zionist, that I'm a supporter of genocide, that I need to personally repent. And I've never sat down and talked with this person. He doesn't know what I believe. And of course, that ended any chance of a friendship there. And I felt so dejected that day that I sent out an email just asking for people not to agree with me, but to understand me. And that was the response I got. And God works in mysterious ways, because like that same day, I got an email from somebody who's an Israeli grad student at Brigham Young University, and said, I have these friends, John and Hannah, who are from the Rossing Center in Jerusalem, and they're doing a speaking tour right now in the United States. Is this something you guys, they'd be interested in coming to Utah? Is that something you'd be interested in? And I looked, and one of their topics was Jewish-Christian interfaith relations after October 7th and the war in Gaza. And I was like, yes, we need to understand each other. Not agree, but understand and be compassionate with each other. I am interested in this. And so I sent out an email to a bunch of partners saying, here's an opportunity to make our world a kinder, better place. Who wants to help me with this? And I wish all fundraising was this easy, because in about 10 minutes, my friend Khosrow Simnani back there, and his wonderful wife, Azlea Simnani, from the Simnani Family Foundation, and if you see that One Kind Act stuff all over town, that's them, called me and said, we want to be your partners in this. We want to underwrite this whole thing. And so I'm very grateful to them. And the ball got rolling. And Mr. Simnani himself has a Muslim background. And so he accurately said, how do we have this conversation, though, with just a just a Christian and a Jewish person? We should have a Muslim on this panel, too. And he invited his friend, Imam Muhammad Metar, who was one of the first people I met when I came to Utah. He used to be an imam here before we sadly lost him to California. And I remember visiting his mosque where he gave a sermon for Juma on prayers on how anti-Semitism goes against Islam. I remember that. And so I said that would be wonderful. And this all came together. So I want to thank all of them. And like I said, Vase, Pastor Curtis, Simnani's, Liz Page and Alex Shapiro from Federation have been helpful too. And I see so many other interfaith partners here from the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints and Interfaith Roundtable and others. So I don't want to name all the names because I don't want to leave anybody out, but I also want to shout out my friend Mason Bennett back there, who's with the One Kind Act a Day group and has been helpful in creating this too. So thank you all. And so with that said, let me welcome up our panelists now that we are all set up here. And again, if I forgot anybody's name, I'm sorry. It wasn't intentional. There's a lot of people made this happen. So let me tell you a little bit about who we have here. So we have visitors from the Rossing Center in Jerusalem, which I'm sure they'll tell you more about. But that is a center in Jerusalem, a holy city to so many people, that is focused on interreligious dialogue and building interfaith relations among Jews, Christians, and Muslims in the Holy Land. And from there, we have Hannah Bendikowski, who is the JCR Program Director, which stands for the Program Director of the Jerusalem Center for Jewish-Christian Relations. She holds an MA degree in Comparative Religion from Hebrew University, great school. I did Ulpan there, so when your son was saying, I don't understand your Hebrew, it's not good, you can thank the Hebrew University for teaching me. And has 27 years of practical experience in interfaith activities in Israel and abroad. She teaches in various institutions, colleges, academic programs, Christian seminaries, post- and pre-military programs, IDF, government, including the Israeli Defense Forces, governmental offices, and more. She's involved in many of the center's activities, including its dialogue programs, producing educational materials, consulting, and advocacy work. Hannah is a professional tour educator in Jerusalem, leading study tours in the Christian Quarter. She has a particular expertise in the Christian communities in Israel and Jewish-Christian relations in the Israeli context. And also we get the bonus pleasure of having her son Avshalom visiting us too. Great to have you here, Avshalom. We got out of school for this week, so good deal. Win-win. And we also have here John Menayer, who is the Director of International Engagement. Born and raised in Jerusalem, John has been involved in peace-building and dialogue initiatives from a young age. He continued to pursue relevant subjects in university, completing an MSc in International Relations in the Middle East from the University of Edinburgh, an MA in Theology and Religious Studies, building interreligious relations from, I'm not going to be able to say that, RIE, did I say that? Close enough. A really prestigious school in Amsterdam, and a BA in Religion, Politics, and Society from King's College in London. John also researches, writes, and lectures on Palestinian Christian identity, Palestinian theology, and interreligious dialogue. And finally, we have Imam Mohammed Mettar, who joined our panel, like I said, and Imam Mohammed is the director of the Islamic Center of the Conejo Valley in Thousand Oaks, California, and formerly served as the Imam of the Central Mosque in Salt Lake City, Utah. His leadership and interfaith outreach have extended to institutions such as Brigham Young University, the University of Utah, Utah Valley University, UCLA, Berkeley, Cal Lutheran, and numerous universities and colleges across California. Deeply engaged in interfaith initiatives, Imam Mohammed has participated in the Utah Senate's annual interfaith prayer session and was acknowledged by Governor Gary Herbert for his service to the Muslim community during his stay in Utah. In Thousand Oaks, he continues to foster understanding and cooperation among diverse faith communities through school, university, and media outreach. An active counselor, educator, and speaker, he leads prayers, directs Friday and Sunday schools, and provides guidance on faith and community issues. Imam Mohammed holds degrees in interpersonal and organizational communication and a degree in Islamic studies from Arabia Islamia, Johannesburg, South Africa. Through his lectures, writings, and media presence, he promotes dialogue on intercultural understanding, social justice, and environmental responsibility, all grounded in the core principles of Islam. His work reflects a commitment to presenting Islam with clarity, compassion, and contemporary relevance. And so I'm thrilled to welcome them up here. And I want to say, I know that we have a diversity of views in this room, and which is good. That's what I like. But also, I want to make clear, and I've said this from the outset, tonight is not a pro-Israel event, it is not a pro-Palestine event, it is a pro-humanity event. Or, I guess you can look at it as a pro-Israel event and a pro-Palestine event and a pro-humanity event, because after all, if we get peace and understanding between each other, not agreement, but understanding, that helps everybody. So let's welcome up our panelists. Come on up here. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. We have a couple microphones, so you might have to share. But if, who would like to start, by the way? Hannah, ladies first. Let's go with you. You got a microphone right behind you there on your seat. And Imam, come on over here. And how about you start by telling us a bit about you? Will you lead the way? Tell us about your work and as a Jew, all this, how this relates to you. Sure, you go ahead.
A couple of minutes and then we can have more
Perfect.
time to say. Shabbat Shalom, and thank you very much, Rabbi, for inviting us, and again for Mr. Simani and Mr. Simani for having the possibility to be here. It's a great honor. I would say that for us, for me and my son, it's also a great pleasure to be in a synagogue where there's such a diversity here of people visiting. That's not something, unfortunately, we're used to in Israel. So to see so many guests in the Friday service, so it's really a pleasure.
And we have one every week, everybody. You can come anytime.
So, yeah. John and I were going around the U.S. We're working together at the Rossing Center I'm working there for 20 years, and John 5 years almost. We're very privileged to have Imam Mata with us in this third panel already. So we get to know each other a little bit since we came here. So it's really a great pleasure and honor to be able to speak and have this conversation. We want to share, I'll say a word about the Rossing Center. The Rossing Center was established 20 years ago. It's a peace-building interfaith organization that promote inclusive society for both Israelis and Palestinians, Jews, Christian, Muslims. We try to build peace, justice, equality for everyone. And we work, and we'll tell you more about it maybe later on. We work with children, with adults, with different kind of people in different groups. And I thought I would share with you a little bit of how we work by telling you my personal journey since October 7th, and apologies for those who've heard me yesterday or the day before, because I will repeat some of the things, but maybe it's good to hear it twice. But I want to share with you my experience because it will also give you some idea of the methodology that we're working in the Rossing Center. So after actually on the day of the 7th of October, maybe on that day I was running up and down the shelter, but on the 8th of October, I started to realize what's going on in our country, in the Gaza envelope, in Gaza itself, when the bombing started. And I was paralyzed. I couldn't do anything. I felt, I can open the computer, but I just looked at the screen. I cannot watch the news, that was too much. I was totally paralyzed for a couple of weeks. We were trying to think of how we're going to continue working, building peace, this reality, it sounds. Until a friend of mine, a colleague of us, Italian, she said, come with me to Italy for a week, just to get away. And it was the middle of November. I started to breathe, not really deep breathe, because until today, every morning I open the news and like, oh, what happened today? But when we started to find ways to adjust our reality, life, work to the new reality in our country, we started by meeting separately because our staff is mixed. So John is Palestinian Christian, I'm Israeli Jew. We have Israelis and Palestinian in the staff. We have Jews, Christian, Muslims. So first of all, we met separately, just the Palestinian and the Jews. Then we got together and started to discuss what can be done, what should we do. And then we realized that we need to practice the same methodology that we use for our groups to do among ourselves. You know how it works when you run programs, but you never take part in the program that you're actually running? That's what we try to do. And we work in the methodology that's called trauma-informed methodology. That says that you have to take into consideration that everyone is traumatized. We all traumatized, but by things that we experience, and definitely by what happened on the 7th of October and the days to follow in Gaza. And therefore, we have to find a way to talk about it. And when we talk about our trauma, we have to find a way to share it with the rest of the people in the group. In this case, it was the staff of the Rossing Center. And the methodology we used has two parts. We sit in group, and then one person shares his trauma, his experience, his spiritual dilemma, what an inner conflict, a moral conflict he's now going through, related to the war, related to what's happening. And then he has to answer a couple of other questions regarding divine presence or God, regarding important figure in the past, regarding a certain event, regarding his feeling of belonging. He speaks for 20 minutes. Then the rest of the group, he stops, and then the rest of the group discuss what he said. They're supposed to listen to him, and we also practice mindful listening. So to listen without being, or at least if, not without, but being aware when we are judgmental, when we're trying to correct the person in our mind. No, what he said is correct. No, be aware of that. Not to try to justify ourselves why we're listening to him, even if it's really hard to listen. So we try to practice the mindful listening, which I also encourage all of us to practice tonight, because maybe I will say something that someone would like to hear. Okay, but first listen to what I have to say. You don't have to agree. So they listen, and then the group discussed my trauma. I'm not allowed to participate now. I'm observing the group talking about me in third tense, and they talk about what I've heard from me. So that gives me an opportunity to reflect about my trauma, to listen to them talking about me. It's a deeper experience. It's a very emotional experience of listening others talking about something very intimate, but it also forces them to listen to me and reflect on that. So it creates a certain opening and empathy within the group. Again, even if we don't agree with each other, and whatever was said was really, really painful and hard, but it creates a certain empathy among us to be able to speak and communicate. And that's a tool we use in our programs because we want to encourage the group to be open to each other and to talk about sensitive things in order to build the relationship that are needed in order to work together for the shared values and common goals that the group has. Just as we do at the Rossing Center. We have different opinions, but when you share the trauma and you share it in a very open way, we can work together toward the shared goal, which is building peaceful, just, and equal society. And I want to share with you what I did share with the group. Because the first motion I had on the 7th of October, or the 8th of October, it was first guilt feeling, but I preferred to define it as responsibility, not guilt feeling, because guilt feeling sounds it's not useful. Responsibility. I realized that the burden I had, this lack of ability to breathe, was connected to a feeling of responsibility I had after the 7th of October. Responsibility for what's happening in Gaza, and now also in the West Bank. Now, I know that you exposed to the news in Israel. We're less exposed to the news, unfortunately. We have to make an effort in order to know what's going on there. To the people who suffer there, to the loss of life, of children, of women, of young men, of old people, loss of houses, loss of sources. The responsibility for what's happening there for the Palestinians. It was also the responsibility for other Israelis, for us as a society, where a lot of people lost their compassion, their even, unfortunately, their humanity. And I say that with a lot of pain, because these are children of my friends, people I grew up with, that behave in a horrible way. Knowing that in a survey that was published lately, 76% of Israelis said that there are no innocent people in Gaza. 76% of Israelis said that there are no innocent people in Gaza. This is painful. I feel responsible for all these people who don't see the innocence of the other. So this was another responsibility that I feel, that something needs to be done for my society. But also, I realized that there's a responsibility for you, for people, for Jews around the world who, and it took me a year to realize that, who also traumatized by what happened in October 7th. Although you're very far, even if you don't have anyone that you know who was killed during the war, but you're traumatized by the fact that the relationship were broken, by the fact that you lost friends, by the fact that you feel insecure. Jews, Christian, Muslim, other religions as well. So it's not only Jews, but I feel responsible for Jews who actually suffer because of what's happening where I live. Everyone is traumatized. I feel responsible for Christians who didn't know what to do and sometimes didn't pick up the phone and call their friends to ask how they're doing. I feel responsible for Jews who felt alone when no one called to ask them how they're doing on the 8th of October. The waves of the trauma of the 7th of October do not stop at the borders of the Holy Land, but go over and over, not just for Israelis and Palestinians, but for people in other communities as well. And now I'm thinking it's not enough to reflect on the responsibility of what happened in the past, but I also want to feel the responsibility to heal, not to heal really, that's too early, to repair this, the results of what happened to all of us, to find a way to build something positive, to find humanity. And I was looking at the portion of the week, Parashat Noach, and being in a synagogue, I have to say something related to the parasha. Actually, we were discussing in the car, I don't know how we got to discuss it, that after the flood, when Noah came out of the ark, he planted a vineyard and he made wine and he got drunk. Very embarrassing story. And he was, lying on the ground, totally naked. And his son, Yefet, came in, saw him lying drunk, disrespectful, and he went outside to tell his brothers, Shem and Ham, you see, our father, he was joking. And they, although it felt like the world is coming to an end, there's no one else except for them, they could have, I can imagine it was such a horrible experience to be totally alone. You don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, you had all these promises from God, but it's very difficult experience. And Shem and Ham didn't lose their humanity and the dignity and the respect for their father. So they went backward and covered them. They didn't, okay, I have correction. Okay, there's a correction from this side. It was only Shem. But in this very unique circumstances, not to lose your humanity and your dignity. And that's something we have to learn from Shem, okay, only from Shem, as children of Shem. But as humans, not to lose the humanity, not to lose the possibility to have compassion for human beings. And that's what drives me to continue my work post October 7th and still during the terrible war in Gaza and the very difficult and horrible situation that Palestinians also experience in the West Bank. And I wanted to share with you that, to give you an idea of how we find the motivation to continue the dialogue in these circumstances.
Thank you, Hannah. I appreciate it with that. How, one, I think this is something that we talk about a lot in Judaism is we're able to hold our pain, but also the pain of others, and that's important. But also, something that we learn is that um, feelings aren't facts necessarily. Feelings are feelings, and you can't tell somebody their feelings are wrong. And so that sounds amazing that you guys create, create space to validate that, even if we disagree on our views on the war. I can't disagree with your feelings and how it makes you feel, and that's powerful to have a space to share that. John, can you tell us a bit about you and your experience with all this?
Of course, and first of all, Shabbat Shalom to everyone, and thank you so much for inviting us to this space with you and to be in fellowship together. Are you with us or are you with them? This is the question that my friend Amitai asked me when we were 12 years old. You see, I'm a Palestinian Christian, but I went to an Israeli Jewish school. And Amitai was the first one to greet me. And perhaps some of the Jewish and Muslim friends here could probably identify with going to a school with a different majority religion. And Amitai was the one who greeted me, and we became really good friends. In fact, it was going to Amitai's house that convinced me to convince my mother to build the sukkah, because I thought, wow, the sukkah is a super cool concept. It's like a camp outside. And I also had the privilege with Amitai to listen to survivors of the Shoah every single year and to hear about their trauma and
The Holocaust, for those who don't know.
Sorry. But it was after a history class that Amitai asked me, are you with us or are you with them? And this is because our teacher was teaching 1948, which for me as a Palestinian is the Nakba, the catastrophe, and I had to challenge the teacher because I felt like my narrative wasn't really heard or spoken. You see, my grandparents were forced out of their homes in 1948 and all their land was taken from them. So I challenged the teacher. But it was after the class where Amitai asked me, are you with us or are you with them? He was asking for allegiance or belonging. And I didn't know what to answer him. And I remember going back home, super confused, and I went to my parents, and my father, he sits on the same place in a couch. There's an actual like slump on that couch. And I asked him, I told him the story, and I was like, what am I supposed to say? And he looked at me with his glasses, and he was like, what are you going to do about it? And I said, no. What am I supposed to say? I need a quick answer. And again, he looked with his glasses down and said, what are you going to do about it? And it made me go on a journey of learning, of reading, of speaking, of asking questions. But I realized that I did not have to pledge allegiance to one group or another, and that I could hold compassion and peace and reconciliation for all. And I decided to pursue relevant subjects in the university. And I remember jumping on a shuttle bus from Jerusalem to the airport. And at the airport, for those who have been, there's a security. So 2 security guards get on the shuttle bus, and they took everyone's IDs, and they went off. After 5 minutes, they came back on the bus. And they gave every single person their ID, except mine, because I was the only Palestinian on the bus. And he asked me to get off the bus, and started asking me questions. And he was confused because I was telling him I'm a Palestinian Christian from Jerusalem who went to an Israeli Jewish school. My Hebrew is pretty fluent. He thought I was joking. And he started to get aggressive with me. And he pointed the gun at me and said, follow me. And he took me to a room where 2 other security guards had to do a body search on me. I was furious. I was humiliated. But I wasn't so angry at the actual security guard because that could have been Amitai. I was furious at the systems of violence and oppression that have placed me in that position and that security guard in that position as well. So on top of the peace and reconciliation journey that I took on in the beginning, I decided that I will also pursue ways to challenge these systems of oppression that we live under. And I remember again asking my parents and telling them about the experience at the airport, and they said the same thing. What are you going to do about it? And the thing that I'm doing at the moment is with my colleague Hannah, I work for the Rossing Center for Education and Dialogue. We believe that if we teach justice and peace as seriously as we teach math in our schools and universities, we will see a completely different reality in Palestine and Israel. And we do it in three main ways. We try and transform educational institutions so they teach justice and peace. We have a 3-year program where we work with the school principal, then with the teachers, and then with the students themselves. As Hannah mentioned, trauma. The second thing that we do, we use trauma-informed methodologies. As you can imagine, Israelis and Palestinians are deeply, deeply traumatized. You are probably traumatized from the images that we've seen on our phones. So we include these methodologies when we work with the groups. The third thing that we do is that we specialize in the intersection of religion and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. We are deeply religious communities. And even if you're not deeply devout, you're still religious. I often speak to my Christian and Muslim Palestinian friends, and I talk about life, and I ask them, do you believe in God? And they sometimes say no, so I say, oh, so you're an atheist? And they say, God forbid, don't call me an atheist, right? We are organized, our identities are structured around religion. And this allows us at the Rossing Center to work with over 70 educational institutions. Now, I know that the conflict in Palestine and Israel also affects you here. And in many ways, we're interconnected. What happens there affects you here, and what happens here affects us too. And I think, and I hope, all of us in this room do not want to see again the horrors of October 7th, and we also don't want to see the horrors of the genocide in Gaza. And this is why I invite you, or I can challenge you, just as my father challenged me, what are you going to do about it? Thank you.
Thank you, John. And thank you. A couple things that you said that I really appreciated is one, just like I told Hannah, we can probably argue and debate a bunch about the war, but I can't argue about your feelings, and your feelings are valid. And likewise, you and I can argue till we're red in the face about this war and the politics of it. And a little later, I have a question about your use of the term genocide. So I'm going to ask you that after we hear from the imam, just to prepare you for that. But I can't argue with your experiences, the experience that you had with the security there. Again, we can argue about the politics, but I can't argue with something that happened to you and how you experienced it and the trauma that created. I also really want to compliment that the compassion that you have. One, in recognizing Jewish pain in addition to Palestinian pain, but also the compassion that you had for the security guard. I think that a lot of people would be really obviously angry and look at that as a form of oppression and how violated and humiliated that is. And what I heard at least was compassion that this person is in this situation because of a feeling of lack of security and how tragic that is, as well as the oppression that then comes as a result of that feeling of insecurity. And that shows a lot of compassion, I think, and my hat off to you. I keep it off to you and for that. Thank you. Imam, I hope I summed that up right, but very impressed. Thank you. Imam, tell us kind of a bit about where you come from, about you and your approach to these things as a leader of faith for Muslims during what I'm sure, as a rabbi, has been challenging to be there shepherding my people, and for you, what's been probably also very challenging.
I still remember for us,
Yeah,
as far as October 7th was concerned, as you know, Friday is our day of worship. And obviously, as I walked into the mosque, the question was, so what are you going to talk about today? Now you have to remember, the Muslim dynamic is quite very different. Roughly you have 1 billion Muslims in the world, number one. Thank God they're not all in Thousand Oaks. Number two, majority of Muslims that you see at some point or the other have been under some form of colonialism. So when they are asking you the question, what are you going to talk about, it's not just a linear question. It's about, do you know what I went through in Africa when the French were there? Do you know what I went through? And just fill in the blanks of every country that has been under European colonialism, etc., etc. So one guy is asking you, what are you going to talk about? And he was the first guy. And I said, you know, what Hamas did cannot be justified. And the counter to that was, Hamas is an institution. Hamas takes care of education. Hamas takes care of medication. And the slew of things they have done. Now, I'm not a Palestinian. I'm not from that part of the world. So now what do? Automatically, I'm on mental arousal. Okay? So I cannot say directly that Hamas did the wrong thing, because if I do say that, I'm invalidating that individual's experience from Lord knows when. Another individual comes and says, Imam, do you know we are 501c? You don't want to mess around with this topic. What do you mean by that? No, you don't want to get involved in this. You don't know who's going to misunderstand you. You don't know what's going to happen. Just keep quiet. And all of a sudden, another fellow comes in. I got a solution for you. What's the solution? Don't talk today. But I'm the Imam. Why should I not talk? No, just don't talk today. What you have got to do is the following. Just take the day off. Just go in the back room, relax. And by the way, in hindsight, this was a very, very positive thing they had done. They said, just let a Palestinian guy come in front today and let him vent. Just let him do what he needs to do, because the Indian guys are passive in the audience. The Pakistani guys are passive in the audience, because it's not directly attacking them, because they're going through their own crisis in India, where their houses are being burned and whatnot. So they're going, we are going through this. I mean, it's a repeat in some form or the other. We don't really care about this Palestinian issue as much as we should be caring. So they are already off topic. The Iranian folks we have are about 5 or 6. Well, they're never going to mess, because they got to be really politically correct, and that's totally fine as well. Then you get what is known as the Saudi guys. This is not our issue. This is not our issue. We have enough going on in our... So we don't want to even bring up the word Palestinian. So what I'm showing you right here is, the Muslim community is very, very, on one hand, fragmented. On the other hand, they are united in one thing, that we do want peace, but they don't exactly know where they want peace at, because they've been pieced up in so many different ways. So that is, now you got to remember where I'm coming from. My radar goes off straight back to South Africa. Straight back to South Africa, because that's what I experienced. And what I experienced there obviously was, blacks, they are savages. Please, I'm not saying if you're a black person, you're a savage. I'm just saying the thinking
narrative
of it.
you were given.
Exactly. Blacks are savages. Blacks are barbarians. Blacks should not even be given any form of humanity whatsoever. When you're looking at the script of what's happening in that part, and by the way, it's not just the Israelis treat the Palestinians, and this is a fact, not a feeling necessary, treat them adversely. I always ask the Egyptians, how are you treated in Saudi Arabia? I will always ask the marginalized Iranian, how are you treated in Saudi Arabia, a Muslim country? I always ask, for example, Palestinians, forget how Israelis are treating you. When you go to your own Muslim land, how do they treat you? So automatically making them realize, yes, what's going on is bad, but what's going on within ourselves is not any better. As I've always said, I got no problem. It is a problem, but I got no problem if a Hindu attacks a Muslim, a Jew attacks a Muslim, a Christian attacks a Muslim, or whoever attacks a Muslim. But I got a problem when a Muslim attacks a Muslim. And when we bring it up from this vantage point of view, and going back to my experience in South Africa, and I'll just make it very short. I know I'm not the prime guy here, so they are the ones. But regardless, the question is, how did I change my perspective? Well, obviously, you know, I came to America in '85. I went to high school, went to college, did all those wonderful things. After I graduated, September 11 took place. When September 11 took place, remember, I'm working in America. By the way, I used to work in Neiman Marcus because it used to pay more than being a graduate teacher. So that was a good thing. I worked over there, and I'm just giving you some personal history. By about 1999, I bought a house. I'm not bragging about a house. I'm just trying to show you. Went to school. This country gave me an opportunity. Was in grad school. And throughout my college years, to the time I graduated grad school, I worked and I managed to purchase a home. What does that tell you? That I invested heavily in America. That was back then. September 11 takes place, and the guy asks me the following question. That's why that previous thing I told you about buying a home, because it's the American dream. Paying taxes, American dream, wonderful, even if you don't like to. And this reporter asked me one question. Remember, I'm in graduate school. I'm studying rhetorical criticism. I'm studying Chomsky, all these wonderful things we're talking about. And this guy asked me one question. It was the following. Are you with, just similar to his, are you with us in America or are you against us? And I lost it. I said, what do you mean? I'm dressed like a Western guy. I only go to the mosque on Fridays, and that to the last 5 minutes, so I can do my work, pray, and just leave. I don't associate with Muslims because who wants to associate? You're coming from South Africa. You want to change the narrative. I don't care for Muslims that much. I just want to be as religious to the extent that I need to be religious. Go in, do your thing, and leave. Because I'm in America. I'm working in Neiman Marcus. I'm working in Saks Avenue. I'm getting commission. Everything is great. And you asking me, whose side am I? This doesn't sound right. And at that point, I decided to go and study Sharia. That's when I decided to go to South Africa. I went, I studied. That's still not the important thing. When I was in South Africa studying, everyone was saying, these are the blacks, stay away from them. There's the word they call kafirs. These are the kafirs, you don't want to hang around them. In other words, they're the scum of the earth. Apartheid has been dismantled. So and I'll end up with this, and I decided to do the following. It was in 2007, we were breaking for holiday. We were breaking for the holidays. We were breaking right at sunset, Thursday. So I decided, we have a 5-day vacation, and I'm going to see what these blacks are all about. That's what I'm going to see. What are these blacks about? It was in Johannesburg, and I came out of the school. I only had a white shirt, a pant, a backpack, and maybe a gallon of water. Why? I'm going to do the following. I'm going to go on the road, and I'm going to put my hand out. I'm going to do hitchhiking, and I'm going to go through all the 4 provinces in South Africa. So I come out and I put my hand out, and guess who's the first person that gave me a lift? A black. Pulled over, gave me a lift. Where are you going? I'm going to Johannesburg, because I'm in the suburbs. I need to get there, and from there, I'm going towards Natal. Okay. Second guy that pulled over, a black fellow. Third person that pulls over, a white individual. I said, and by the way, there's a certain series of questions I would ask each one, and I'm not going to go through that right now. I asked the white fellow, why did you pull over? Because I don't want you to get killed by the blacks. That's why I pulled over. Okay, no problem. And this is going on all the way. I made it to Port Shepstone. Remember, what time did I leave? Did I tell you what time I left? Around what time? Sunset. Do you know the vulnerability you go through picking up a guy you don't even know? And the vulnerability that I go through by sitting in your car? But yet we had to have this conversation. The highlight of it was there was a place called Harding. It's past Port Shepstone. Remember, I'm hiking, jumping in. And it's nighttime. I just fall asleep in your car. Because I'm thinking, I've got to sleep right now because I don't know where you're going to drop me off. So I better be awoke when you drop me up. I don't know what's going to happen. This what took me by storm. It's past Harding, and there's a place between Harding and the Cape where Nelson Mandela's house used to be, humble beginnings. A car pulls over. There are 2 ladies. Not because I was handsome, nothing to do with that. There are 2 ladies, and they just go like this, jump in. They are busy in a conversation. These are blacks, by the way. People that we have oppressed, people that we have demeaned and used savage name against. I jump in the car. When I jump in the car, guess who's next to me? Not Hannah and not John. 2 young children, 2 African babies, maybe about 3 years old. One was much younger. And they're looking at me like this, like, who's this guy? And they're going like this on my face. They had a beard. So they're touching that, because they never have seen a beard. And they just kept on playing with me. And the ride continued. There's a fog that takes place. And what one of them says something to the other. All I heard was Cape Town. So the other one goes like this. So they were supposed to go this way. And last minute they made a change. And they went in the direction that I was heading towards. They drove a little bit extra. And thereafter they stopped, strategically at a gas station, I realized what these people were doing. They didn't just want to drop me off at the fork and say, right, now you go hit the road, Jack, or Muhammad, or whatever it was. And by the way, they didn't speak a word with me. All they asked was, where are you going? And the rest was on its own. They pull over at the gas station, drop me off, and thereafter the woman, there was a passenger of the driver, goes in the gas station, maybe thought I was broke or something, and I was not, fortunately. They go in the gas station and they buy, I don't know if you heard of Simba chips. They buy Simba chips, they bought Tropica, I remember it was Tropica something, they bought, put it in a bag. I thought they're buying for themselves. Now I'm waiting in the gas station, I'm trying to see if cars come in, and guess what? That lady comes up to me, gives me that entire bag. I said, no, I'm fine. It's okay, it's okay. And they left. Bottom line, everyone is suffering, everyone is going through pain, everyone is calling people names. Give the other a chance, and you'll see a remarkable outcome.
Thank you, Imam. And Imam, I want to say that as a fellow faith leader, I appreciate the tough position you are in, and in some ways even tougher. Thank you, and for sharing that vulnerability. I really appreciate you sharing the story of how you exposed yourself to other folks and other narratives. I think that's something important to do. Whenever I go to Israel, and I'm fortunate to go not infrequently, and whenever it's safe to do so, because there's no fighting and stuff, I always make a point to try to go to a Palestinian town and ask questions, but not give opinions, and to hear. And it's been amazing. I've gone to meet with people who've told me, oh, I support Hamas, and I go, okay, tell me about that. And I think they're going to tell me, oh, because I hate Jews and I want all Jews to die, and they give me a completely, I don't like the corruption of the Palestinian Authority, or whatever. And I hear different answers from people, and it really informs my worldview and humanizes folks. So, oh, go ahead. Were you going to say something? No, sure. People are here to hear you,
I just want
not
to
me.
say, I think it's important. It's important to understand that we also, we talk about compassion and knowing the other, but we have to remember that we're living in a very imbalanced reality in terms of power dynamics. And I was listening to the story from South Africa. I'm thinking, well, the blacks are the majority, but still they're very weak in the reality. And how this kind of experience of helping others can be empowering, but the power dynamic is also part of the conversation. I mean, one of the things that we try to do, at least within the group that we work, is first to empower the Palestinian, the Palestinian community, children, teachers, to clarify, to explore their identity, but also to help Israeli Jews to recognize that we don't live in a reality of equality, that we have two sides and everything is equal. And so hearing the two stories, I keep thinking about it. Well, we have to bear in mind that we are imbalanced. The power dynamic in Israel are very imbalanced, and we in Israel, unlike you, and again, I always say I never had an experience of being a minority, and fortunately I grew up in Israel, and I was always part of the majority. I actually my anti-Semitism radar is very, very weak. I never noticed that because I just used to live in Israel and when I'm part of the majority. And I have to be aware of what it means to be a majority and how much power I have as a majority. And as much as insecure I might feel, I'm still the one who holds the weapon. I mean, if we're talking about systems, as John mentioned. So, I'm listening to that story and I hold this whole idea of who's the weak, who's the strong, who's the majority, who's the minority. It's very confusing, and I think this is also the experience maybe that you have coming from here, being a small minority here in Utah, in the US, going to Israel, suddenly be part of the majority, and talking to Palestinians who are the minority, and challenging the conversation. This is quite a challenge for all of us to be aware of that while we talking about the certain.
I appreciate that. I want to scream every time I hear Christians tell me about how there's a war on Christmas in America. I want to say, do you want to walk 1 mile in my shoes during December? I don't have any problem with Christmas, by the way, in case that's, but I want to be like, don't worry. I can tell you as a non-Christian, Christmas is doing fine in America. It's thriving, it's healthy, it's all that. So I appreciate that perspective as well. So I have 2 questions, and then I want to open it up. And I'll ask that you keep your answers brief because I want to give people time. No, you're great. I appreciate all this. I just want to make sure we have time for folks to ask questions. So I want to challenge a couple things that I heard. And so I have 2 questions. The first one, like I gave the beginning to, any of you can answer this, is, John, when you were talking, you used the word genocide, and I immediately felt something inside me like, ugh. And you 100% believe there's a genocide happening in Gaza, correct? I 100%, while I think it's tragic, don't believe that there's a genocide happening in Gaza. And so, and I personally then, when I hear that term, take offense to that, and it creates a visceral reaction where I want to scream, get red in the face, tell you why you're wrong, and then storm out of the room. My question is how when you talk about these things, these complicated issues, and when you use a word like genocide or apartheid or something like this that can be very polarizing, how do you keep the conversation from blowing up like that? And again, not getting people to agree, but getting people to understand where you're coming from, especially if you use a word that can be extremely triggering for other people, particularly, I think, for us as Jews who have been victims of genocide and such. Any of you can respond to that.
Yeah, so in Jerusalem, as a Christian, we're a very small community. We're less than 2% in the entire land. But one of our Christian communities are the Armenian people. There's an Armenian church. And I've had the pleasure of, because we're Christian and we're a small community, we know everyone and we tend to also be related to everyone. I heard a lot about the Armenian suffering and the Armenian genocide. You know, this is one of the first times I even heard that term, was because I interacted as a kid with Armenians.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned about the Armenian genocide. And then, in an Israeli Jewish school, every single year, we met with a Holocaust survivor. And we heard their testimony and how they survived. And we heard about the genocide. And we learned about it in the history books and all these things. And it didn't seem weird to me. It didn't seem odd to me. It didn't even threaten who I am. I met the Armenians and heard about their genocide. I heard about the Jewish people and their genocide. And sadly today, because of that education, I also see the genocide in Gaza. And it just fits the definition.
But I mean, I'm not asking you to tell me why it is a genocide or why it isn't. I'm asking if I have a visceral reaction to that word, how do we continue to have dialogue and such?
And this is where I'm taking it, is that I had the privilege from a young age of hearing these stories of trauma. And it informed who I am. And what we do in our groups is we allow for participants to engage with people's deep, deep traumatic experiences. And this is the healing hatred methodology that Hannah was speaking about. Is how can you listen to people's deep grievances and pain without being distracted by their political positions? And it's a deep, deep methodology that we use in order to help people move past these sort of areas. Because one of the worst things you can do when you meet someone who you disagree with is shut them down.
Yeah.
You need to listen to, and I think as a movement who are trying to promote justice, peace, and equality, sometimes we really do a horrible job at that. We just shut people down, as opposed to listening to their grievances and emotions and trauma and learning from them. And through that interaction to move forward and actually build a better reality.
Thank you.
I just want to add something. When I hear that, and this is part of the conversation in Israel, again, I don't know how much you get the news from Israel, but if you hear the politicians, if you hear leaders, if you hear commanders in the army, the intention is there. I mean, but when I hear people talk about genocide, and said, well, it's not genocide. And again, I'm not here to discuss if it is or it's not. I'm wondering why it's so hard for us to have even the conversation about it. And I think it goes in many ways to, first of all, the trauma that we experience as people, but also the trauma of understanding and accepting the horrible reality that we are part of it. We need to justify that we are good. We cannot imagine that Jews can do horrible things. And I had the same problem. Because as I said, these are the children of my friends. These are people I know. It's my brother, who also served in the army. And it's very difficult for me to, not in Gaza, but it's difficult for me to imagine that my people could do horrible things. And I realized that the whole discussion about genocide, yes or not intention, numbers, it's not about that. It's about our difficulty to realize that people can lose their humanity, can lose their compassion. And that's exactly what we want to do here, to gain back this ability to be compassionate. So the whole I try not to get involved in the discussion about word and terminology, but to focus on what can be done. First of all, to stop the tragedy, and secondly, to build a healthier society. And again, I'm talking about us, the Jews, to build a healthier society. And I know it's hard to be away and to know that things that are being done far in the Holy Land has such an emotional impact on you. But it's hard to imagine. I don't want to imagine that my brothers and sisters are doing something similar. And so that's part of it. This is part of our trauma.
So what you look at, again, is this genocide or is it not genocide, and debating the facts or definitions, but more of, one, why does John feel it is, and
why it's hard for you to
and why does that word create such a discomfort for me as a Jew?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And what can we do in order to deal with the discomfort, with the fact that
And understand
horrible
ourselves.
things are? How can we understand it? And how can we find a way to communicate that between us? This discomfort and this, all these feelings.
John, were you going to add something before we jump to the email?
Really brief, that with our participants, what we really want to do is break out of the us versus them mentality, where we can only do good and they can only do bad.
That's
But-
going to be my second question, so we'll come back
Okay,
to that.
but we have to break out of that us versus them that leads us to a zero-sum mentality, that if the only way I can win is for Hannah to lose, and the only way Hannah can win is for me to lose. But to break out of that mentality that I think is existing in many different groups. And as John, I need to also take an intersectional approach, that sometimes I am the aggressor and the oppressor, and sometimes I'm the victim. Maybe in Hannah, when we're back home, in some cases I'm the one who's oppressed by the system, but also me and Hannah in certain circles, I'm the man, and I participate in systems that can oppress women. And so on and so forth. So it's helping people understand, get out of that us versus them, and to see that we're capable of great, great good, but also great, great evil.
Imam, did you have anything to add?
I'll keep it very brief. The issue that Muslims have in America is the following. When we give our opinion, your opinion doesn't count, show me the facts.
Hold it up a little higher.
Yes. Generally, you see, when you look at people that are marginalized, like many Muslims, and they come to America, the first thing we are told is the following, especially when I went to grad school. Don't give us your feelings, show us the facts. When you give people facts, you are very rude, you are in our face. We don't like the way in which you are presenting it. Why I share this is the following. If anything is discussed, whether it's cars, watches, homes, etc., the first question is, what is the criteria? Same can apply to the phrase genocide. Forget what I say about genocide. Forget what you say about genocide. The international community has universal values. And we have to examine what are the universal values and how are they stipulating facts as it relates to genocide. When one looks at it that way, You also have to look at now certain words made by certain members in Israel, such as they are human animals, they are etc., etc., etc. And by the way, we still don't have a problem with that because we understand they use those words as a result of what Hamas did. Okay, fine. Hamas did something, you had to react, you said certain things, we are with you on that. When you're in pain, you will say things, we have to forgive. But the problem comes about when you start making those words into a reality and you turn Gaza into 92% rubble. Even if you did that, I'll still say it's not a genocide. But then, when it's 92% rubble and hospitals are brought down, schools are brought down, sanitation facilities are wiped out, etc., etc., then you start connecting the dots. Nobody likes going around saying it is a genocide, but I think when you have a criteria list, I'll ask the rabbi a simple question. Imagine if I wiped out, oh God, what did I use of my name there? You get what I'm saying? Imagine if someone did the same exact thing to Tel Aviv. Would you call it a genocide or not?
Well, so I think that instead of me giving my own opinion
just-
here about if it is or isn't a genocide, because like I said, we could debate that, I think what I'm hearing you say is that, because again, I personally don't believe there's a genocide in Gaza, and I can speak for an hour about why I feel that's the case. But at the same time, it doesn't matter so much what I think, and what I'm hearing you say is that I need to put myself in the shoes of a Palestinian and a Gazan. And so that's perhaps what's important to do is to create a sense of empathy, again, rather than getting bogged down on what a technical definition is can I find compassion for Gazans who 92% of their homes have been damaged or destroyed? Can I find compassion for Gazans who don't have a hospital to go to? And again, I can argue about the context behind that and the reasons for that, but I'm not going to do that tonight. I'm happy to do that another time that you want to talk with me. But I do have to acknowledge the sadness of the fact and the tragedy that Palestinians in Gaza don't have a hospital that they can go to or a school that they can learn in. And regardless of context, that's a human tragedy. My second question for you all actually is very much on this same issue. I'm going to talk about 1994, and a couple of things happened in 1994. One was Israel and Jordan created a peace deal. And part of the peace deal was that there was an island that was that should have belonged to Jordan, and Israel, it's kind of a weird story. When the armistice line was drawn in 1949, Israel wanted this island where they built a hydroelectric dam on the Jordan River, and and that was supposed to go to Jordan, and Moshe Dayan drew a line around it, and the Jordanians did not notice, and it became a part of Israel. And part of the agreement between Israel and Jordan in this peace deal was that Israel was going to give that to Jordan. And so it became part of Jordan, but it became a place where it became known as the Island of Peace, and you didn't need a passport to go onto it. So Israelis could go on it, Jordanians could go on it, but it was guarded by Jordanian soldiers. And in 1994, when that happened, a group of Israeli schoolgirls went to this island and on a school field trip, and a Jordanian soldier who had been radicalized opened fire and killed 7 girls, I believe it was, who were on a field trip, 7 Israeli Jewish girls. And again, that's just the act of one. That's not a reflection, I feel, of Jordanians or Muslims or Arabs. But why I bring that up was King Hussein of Jordan traveled to Israel and sat in the homes of those girls' families for Shiva and showed them love and compassion and condemned what happened. That same year, a Jewish terrorist named Baruch Goldstein walked into the Abrahami Mosque in Hebron and opened fire and murdered, I believe it was 29 Palestinians who were there praying, and injured over 100. And the prime minister of Israel at the time was Yitzhak Rabin. And Yitzhak Rabin said these exact words. He said, "You are a disgrace to the Zionist." He spoke directly to Goldstein, who was dead at that point. "You are a disgrace to the Zionist project. You are an errant weed, and sensible Judaism spits you out." So we have in this case here, because yes, I can highlight Jewish terrorists like Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich, who, in my opinion, are absolute disgraces and an embarrassment to the Jewish people, who say, regardless of there's genocide or not, they say genocidal things and horrible things that embarrass me. And I have to, as a rabbi, condemn that. And likewise, I can point to Arab leaders or Hamas leaders who glorify October 7th and horrible things that happen. And I think that you as an imam have a responsibility to condemn that. And so my question is for you, is how can we be more like Yitzhak Rabin and King Hussein of Jordan? Because it's extremely easy when we get into victimhood mentalities, Jews, Muslims, Palestinians, Christians, to condemn the people who are oppressing us. But how do we call out the hatred on our side, or how do we call out when somebody from our team, John, you're saying, are you with us or with them? Somebody who is on our team does something that is horrific and causes pain to others that we care about. Go ahead.
There were two other things that happened in 1994. The first thing is that I was born in 1994. And the second is that South Africa got rid of apartheid. And I think that there is a model there in South Africa, actually, where there was a truth and reconciliation process, although it wasn't perfect, as we discussed, I think it was 2 nights ago. But this idea that if in contexts of deep injustices, where there are people who are extremely powerful and people who are weak, the goal is not to reverse those orders. You don't want to just change and you become the one that is the one in power and the oppressor. But actually you want to transform the entire dynamics and relations and structures to that where we're all equal. And I think this is a huge challenge that we have, is to call out ourselves when we cause harm to others, but also just as we do when other groups cause harm to us. So I think this is a deep emotional work that we all have to do on a daily basis, because it's so easy to fall into, as a Palestinian, and just condemn everything that things are done to us without condemning when we are at fault as well.
Hannah, Imam?
Yeah, I'll just keep it brief as I can.
Here, hold the mic up though so we can hear you.
One way to create positive outcomes, we have to go back in history a little bit. When Umar went to Jerusalem after the Roman Empire created catastrophe, to the point wherein he asked the following question, and we know this from the books of history. Montgomery Watts also talks about it. He says, "Where are the Jews?" They said, "We got rid of them." When he said he got rid of them, what did Umar do? He didn't say, "Okay, I need my team, I need you all to clean up." So you got rid of them, no problem. He went to by the way, not only they got rid of them and made that place into a landfill, so they will not come back. He went down there and he started picking up all the garbage that they left behind. And as he did that, people realized the message he was bringing forth. Another example I can give you, and I spoke about this very briefly yesterday, regarding the Spanish Inquisition that took place. The deal was Jews can leave Spain, But as far as the Muslims are concerned, you are not going to leave. The Ottoman, what did they do? They sent ships over, bring them over. Even under the Shah, in when the Polish Jews were being hammered, one of the places that allowed and gave them refuge was in Iran. So the point I'm trying to make here is these things have occurred, they are occurring, and God forbid, which is a reality we have to deal with, knowing human history. As I always tell my students, this is what I tell them. Whenever they come and tell me something, I say the following: tell me your past, and seeing your present, I can predict your future. Algorithms are doing the great thing right now regarding that as well. So the reality is, we are not going to create everlasting peace, but what we can do is look at the books of history on how they reconciled, and including, of course, as John made mention of the issue in South Africa, it's not perfect. It's far from perfect, but it's a beginning point. And as I've said before, and I'll say again, as far as the issue in the Middle East is concerned, whether it's Palestine or wherever it can be, rest assured, maybe we will not see the peace in our life, but I've read enough from what the Israelis themselves have said. They themselves are saying, enough is enough. Deep down, they want to go towards peace. Palestinians themselves, they too are saying, all we want is just to survive, and let's figure out a way to do it. And just to answer one of your points, there is not a single person in America, a single imam at least that I know, that has said Hamas was right. What they have said is the following: as a result of, therefore this took place, etc., etc. And many Muslims are saying the same thing. That does not mean that they are necessarily justifying it. If that's the stench that comes out, then I should say the following, that if anyone sanctions, whether it's October 7th, or for that matter, what is taking place for right now, as we are talking right now, there is absolutely no room for that.
I appreciate that. Let me ask you though, Imam, if they're not saying Hamas was right, is anybody saying Hamas was wrong with this? And you talked about how you didn't want to create discomfort on October 7th among Palestinians who maybe had a favorable position towards Hamas. Do they need to maybe hear, though,
But
that
I'm just
wrong?
wondering about this
Sure.
need to get the condemnation. Right after October 7th, I have a Facebook page that I run about Christian communities in the Holy Land, and I just couldn't write anything since the 7th of October. And then I got people, students of mine, who posted on my page, why don't you condemn the 7th of October? And I thought, what are you talking about? You're a leftist organization. Why don't you condemn? It's a website, it's a Facebook page about Jewish Christians, relation, it's about, so this, it's not about condemning or not condemning, I would say. I don't need every imam around the world to come out and say, I condemn. I want to hear him saying something positive. I want to hear every religious leaders, rabbis, as well as Christian leaders, saying, we are not ready for the loss of life of innocent people. I don't need them to stand up and say, as a Jew, as an Israeli Jew, I don't need anyone to say, I condemn Hamas. I want to hear something positive. So I don't want them to stand in line and to hear that everyone's saying, I condemn Hamas. This is irrelevant.
So do you think, though, rabbis should have, after 1994, condemned from the Bima after, like, Baruch Goldstein?
You know, I would like to see rabbis condemning harassment to Christians in Israel. I want to see rabbis condemning the way that the politicians don't go to Shiva of victims of the 7th of October. I want to see people speaking out against any kind of discrimination and loss and lack of compassion. That's what I want to see. I want to see the positive, not the negative.
But wouldn't you say then, by that same thing, forget October 7th for a second, but like, do imams also have that responsibility to condemn? To condemn, if you're saying that rabbis have a responsibility.
No,
to
so
call
I'm saying
out.
it's not about. I want to say people speaking positive, not condemning. So it's not point. You say, okay, it's very bad. Okay, but what do you want to do about it? Okay. How do you want to change forward? So
I
that's my
appreciate
view.
No, I appreciate your view. Thank you. Imam, did you want to add anything?
By the way,
No.
By the way, she has made some phenomenal
Hold
points.
the mic up.
Yes, she has
Then
made
I'm
some.
going to take questions
Yeah,
from
she has
you all.
made some great points, and I cannot applaud her for that enough. But I'll just say one thing: as Muslims, we have a different concept. It's called amara bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar. When good is taking place, we praise it, and when it's wrong, I know the word condemn is very strong of a word, but as believers, we have to condemn what is wrong, because the thing that is taking place has to be matched up with Scripture. And if the behavior does not match Scripture, then we have to say enough is enough on that. At the same time, to be fair, while we condemn Hamas on that given act, we shouldn't be such that we wipe away any positive things that they may have done in the past. And the same applies to even Israel. Israel has amazing technologies that they have brought forth. I won't push it to the point of saying what Netanyahu said, we created the cell phone and implied that. That's a separate issue. That you got to give credit to China, of course. Anyway, excuse the humor on that, but the point here is we have to look at the good that people have done, give them the necessary praise, whether it's the Christian Arabs. I mean, read the words of Edward Said. He said something very powerful. If there's anything you take away, it's going to be this. He said the following: the Jews are here to stay. The Palestinians are here to stay. To say anything else would be foolish.
Amen.
And if you look at it from that point of view, you realize that when a wrong is done, we got to work towards making it a right. And when good has been done, we should not water it away because of the wrong that has taken place.
Thank you. I think that looking for the good in others is always important in every group. I want to take, we've gone like way over longer time already, so I want to take just a couple of questions, and then we're going to wrap up because we've gone on way too long already and we could be here all night. Louis, here, let's, please. Good to see you.
Thank you so much. My name is Louis Kogan. I've been a member of the synagogue for a number of years, and I just want to say, first of all, John and Hannah and Imam and Rabbi, thank you so much. I'm very, very happy this conversation is happening here. I grew up the grandson of grandparents who survived the Holocaust, and I remember talking to my grandparents even as a teenager when they were ready to tell me more about their experience and how most of their family was killed in the Holocaust, how they remember being described as animals, and how it was the dehumanization of a people that allowed the Holocaust to happen. And then I remember in the wake of October 7th, maybe this was a few months later, just having a lot of conflicting feelings and concerns. And I remember being in this synagogue and seeing a Jewish newspaper that was part of the regular news here describe all Palestinians as animals, and and it really, I think it struck me. That struck me really hard, and I felt like perhaps my morality had gotten crosswise with my community, and I think that since that time, I've found it much easier to ask questions and to be curious and to, I think, to explore and to learn, as all of you have described. I think that the thing I really found to be the hardest is to challenge your own community without leaving it. And I know, I think I've seen a lot of people in my community who feel comfortable criticizing, kind of pulling.
Sorry, Louis, we just are short on time.
Yeah,
so
I'm
I
sorry.
know there's a
Withdrawing
question.
into their sort of, withdrawing into their community and offering criticism outside, and then I've seen other people who just leave the community. And I think the hardest thing is to stay in the community while standing up for yourself. And I'm wondering, I think in particular, Hannah, your experience with that. I'm very curious.
So yeah,
how you feel about that.
let me recap that and just pass Hannah and Mike. So Hannah, you've shared some ideas today that might not be totally Hannah, I hate to break it to you. I don't think you're going to get elected Prime Minister of Israel anytime soon. How do you? We talk about interactions with Palestinians and stuff. How do you interact with other Israelis who you dine hugely?
It's challenge, but it's family. I mean, so you always have to find a way to hold this thing together. We can talk about having compassion to everyone, not to choose sides. We have to hold together these complex identities, connection, narratives, and also the relationship within my community. So find a way to be critical, but at the same time, I feel very much connected and belong, and juggle between the two and hold the things together. We're not flat. And our identity is not flat and simple. It's not black and white. You can find a way to hold it together and to find a way to communicate and to find a way to share, and sometimes to be silent. But you will never stop being Jewish. So even when you're critical and to work. I mean, I think one of the things that is very helpful is that I'm working toward a better society. I'm not a very optimistic person. I tend to be very pessimistic. They always laugh at me in the office that I come and like, oh, is she going to blow up the atmosphere? But I'm very hopeful, and hopeful means that I do believe that there is a hope for my community to stay together and to work together and to have a better future with Palestinian brothers and sisters. So,
John, was there anything you wanted to add about maybe being a Palestinian who works with Israeli Jews? And you talked about having some compassion for Israelis who maybe feel a lack of security. And maybe if you've gotten Palestinians, you got your friend Amitai who asked you, are you with us or with them? Maybe you've been asked that too from Palestinians.
Absolutely. I think when you're in our line of work, trying to make sure that everyone is free, secure, and has human rights, I think everyone sees you as sort of maybe a traitor to your own community. And I like to think of us as bridges because everyone walks on you, right? So yeah, I've had to break relationship with a lot of some of my Palestinian friends, and I've broken relationships with some of my Israeli friends over this. And also as a Christian, seeing how some of the Christians abroad have been reacting has been extremely painful. To see how many have promoted ideas of Islamophobia and anti-Semitism has been extremely troubling, or the fact that people haven't engaged in a healthier way with some of the Jewish and Muslim communities here is deeply troubling for me. But I believe that this is part of my Christian identity, is to speak truth and to hold justice and peace and try and promote it everywhere I can.
Thank you. Are there other questions? Let's see. Let's see here. We got a lot of questions. I don't think we're going to get to all of them tonight. Ken, I saw your hand up. Maybe folks can stick around for a few minutes. I want to take like 2 more questions just because I'm cognizant that it's like 9 o'clock and I'm like thrilled that you guys are still here and want to stay here. So thank you. Ken, go ahead. And again, let's keep our questions brief so that we can give more time to friends.
Thanks for coming and presenting. Words are really important, and how you state things really matter. And so when you say that there is a genocide being committed against Gazans, the definition of genocide
So
that
hey,
I
wait,
have...
I want us to litigate, but if you have...
No, it is, I want to know how to reconcile this. How intent comes into play. The intent of the Germans was to liquidate a people. The intent of the Turkey people were to eliminate Armenians. I don't think you can say that the intent of Israel is to eliminate the Gazans.
So let me.
It's in reaction to the attack that happened to them and make sure that it never happens again.
So, Ken, I appreciate where you're coming from. I think you and I have a lot of agreement, but I want us to stay on, instead of trying to litigate the war and definition stuff, I want us to see, are there questions about how do we communicate with people in moments of disagreement rather than us, because again, we can turn this into an all-night thing where we are
It's a question
arguing about the war.
of the use of the word
I just want,
genocide. So it's like it's ripping it away from the Jewish identity and taking it for yourself,
All
for
right,
the
well,
victims.
Ken, thank you for your comments. All right, do we have a question? Again, question is something that ends with a question mark. Let's see. Rebecca, you go ahead. We'll take a couple more.
Thank you all for being here. Fear. I'm scared of you. I mean, I'm not going to go running outside, but I'm scared. And I think a lot of people who are Jewish in America, because we don't live in Israel. I have visited Israel. I visited a really lovely Arab town that was bombed by Gaza the next day. Fear. I'm scared of Palestinians. I'm scared of Palestinian Americans. I'm scared of Palestinians in Israel. How do I get by that and am able to talk with you all? And I even have some fear, which I never had before, of the Muslim community. Although what you described really did help, that there's a lot of differences.
I appreciate that. That was very vulnerable of you. Thank you, Rebecca. So that's a very vulnerable question, and thank you. How, when we see each other as the other or as a threat, because I'm guessing that there's a lot of Palestinians who, exactly what Rebecca just said about Palestinians and Muslims, would say the exact same words as you, but about Jews and Israelis. Or I went and visited, I've been to southern Lebanon, by the way, and I loved, it was one of the best places I've ever been in my life, and the people were phenomenal. The only thing better than the people of Lebanon was their food. And so, but I went to a town in southern Lebanon that was then bombed by Israel. And so they might say the exact same words as Rebecca just did of, I'm scared of Jews, I'm scared of Israelis because of what we see on TV. How do we overcome that?
Well, let's give you,
Particularly, Imam, like there might be people in your community who've
essence
never
of
met a
time-
Jew.
In the essence of time, I'll make it very simple. You and I should be more fearful of white supremacy than Muslims.
Well, I appreciate that.
And the pure research stacks up directly in line of what I'm going to say, but in the essence of time, I would.
By the way, every threat we got pre-October, I've never gotten a threat here from a Muslim or an Arab, except once there was a person who was suffering from mental illness, and every time she saw a plane or a helicopter thought we were sending Mossad to monitor her thoughts, but that was more of a mental illness issue. Every single threat that we've ever got in here, and we have gotten, unfortunately, a lot, were from white people. Pre-October 7th, it was white supremacists. Post-October 7th, it was people on the far left who felt that threatening us was in solidarity with the Palestinian cause, but none of them were Palestinian or Arabs. They were all white people. Thanks, white people. Anyways, go ahead.
I'll address also the comment in the back, and also I will never stop working in Jerusalem to make sure that every single person that lives in Jerusalem is secure, lives in peace, regardless of who they are. I am committed to trying to work for Avshalom's better future. Even if we disagree on terms, this is my commitment. The second thing about fear, I think we're all so fearful. We're so fearful. And we might be fearful about different things in different places, and it's real. And it connects also to our family traumas and our collective traumas as people. And I think we need to engage in those fears and really delve into the traumas that make us fearful. And I think some of the best things that have helped me is to meet people who are different than me and to go physically into spaces that I usually feel fearful, whether that be many Israeli homes or vice versa for Palestinian homes if you're Israeli. But we have to engage with those fears in a real way, but also try and to challenge some of the fears or some of the stereotypes or positions that we build on top of that fear that we have.
Thank you. Anybody?
I'll just say that really experience, we also, part of the work that we do is part of the healing hatred process that we do with the trauma-informed methodologies is just going together to a place. So taking Israelis in Arab neighborhoods and Arabs in Jewish neighborhoods, and talking about the fears, because it is based on traumas and why we are so fearful. So it's not always something maybe logical, it's something very emotional. And by knowing people, that's the only way to deal with that. And to understand that our security depends on each other. If John's secure, then I'm secure. And if I'm secure, then John's secure.
Okay, so rising tide lifts all boats. That's what we say. Imam, you had something
Just
to add?
one more point I want to make, and again, this is a factual point. I just want you to do the following homework tonight. How much money is spent on promoting Islamophobia? Do your research, and you got the answer.
So, thank you. And anti-Semitism, too. I think a lot of money is spent on hate. If less money was spent on hate and more than was spent on tolerance and love, your center would be in much better shape, probably. So I want to take one more question. By the way, I will confess, I used to be scared of Muslims, too. And then when I was in 4th grade, our school teacher took us to a mosque, and I met the imam because the only thing I knew about Muslims was what I saw on TV. And I met the imam, and that was hands down the most memorable field trip I had in elementary school. He changed my views completely, and I'm proud to say that all of my best friends in my life, since 7th grade when I met John Goxon from Turkey, every one of my closest friends in my life has been Muslim. So I think that's great. We're going to take one more question. I see somebody back here. We've taken a couple questions from the Jewish community. I'm going to take a guess by your outfit. We probably have different views, so I want to hear your question.
Thank you, Rabbi.
For sure.
So, well, I've heard the words equality and safety and peace and justice, and I really do believe in those values. And Peter Beinart, who is an observant Jew,
I saw him at the airport the other day in Albuquerque. I was like, oh, that's Peter Beinart. Go on.
He was on the Jon Stewart show, and he said on national television that in his view, Israelis won't be safe until Palestinians are safe. And Palestinians won't be safe until they are free. And I think that really kind of wrapped it all up in just 2 sentences for me. So I would be interested to hear if the panelists agree with that, or what. And also, why aren't we talking amongst ourselves more in this community here in Salt Lake City?
That's why we brought those people, so that we can start doing that. Because you're right, that is a problem, and that's why we are bringing these people out here so we can rectify that problem. And more shakshuka together, I like that. But I think we hear this back and forth. There's going to be the Palestinians. There will be peace for the Israelis and securities for the Israelis when the Palestinians are free. And then I've heard the Israelis say, we will give the Palestinians freedom when we get security. And how do we break this deadlock?
Yeah, so I would
Solve
say
the
that
Middle East.
Yeah. So I don't know how to solve. I don't have the solution to solve the whole problem. I want to build the peace that would be the foundation for, and to create the will and the capacity among Israelis and Palestinians to live together. And when we talk about freedom, we're looking at the situation right now, not only in Gaza, but also in the West Bank, where you have 2 million people under military occupation, where you have increasing incident of Jewish terrorism. And if you don't follow what's happening in the West Bank, it's painful to get the videos from there and to get the pictures from there. It doesn't get to the news. It doesn't get to the news. It's hard. It's hard to see that because, again, it's Jewish people. So I think talking about safetyness and security is also connected to the fact that this is the reality now, that there's occupation in the West Bank, that officially within Israel there is equality for all citizens, but practically it's not implemented as I would expect it to be. Because I can stand here and talk freely about and criticize the state of Israel, the government, but if a Palestinian Israeli does it, he might gonna have consequences to what he says. So I have to be aware of that and work toward a reality where, when I'm talking about peace and inequality, that's part of it, for me, at least. I don't know how it's gonna work. I don't have the solution. There are all kind of solutions, and that's not what we're going to discuss today. But for me, as an Israeli, that's what I expect.
I mean, freedom and security are very related, right? The fact that there's a police car outside this synagogue, I wonder if people feel free here. But actually, people feel very threatened here. And you know what I mean? So I wonder how closely these two issues are together, but absolutely, freedom, security, we need it for both of the communities, and this is what we're trying to do, is to build the internal movement of Israelis and Palestinians who realize that's the case. I think the work that needs to be done here is also to realize that, so that together, both the internal and the external movements can really push for a better reality. Imam, anything to add?
I remember when I was a kid in South Africa, there was this fellow, he would come and he would spend his entire paycheck on clothing. So my grandfather asked him, why do you do this? You know what his answer was? Because I have nothing to live for tomorrow. So I want to enjoy today. Now analysts are saying, as a result of what has taken place and the disproportionate bombings that have taken place, if you think the amount of Hamas fighters are only 40,000 or 60,000, American, what you call this, studies are saying, multiplied by 8 to 10. So what we are saying here is, when someone is reduced, their values are brought down. They as people, morally, socially, when you knock them to the bottom, they have nothing to live for, so to speak. And if that is the situation we create, by the way, not just in Palestine, not just in Israel, anywhere in the world, when you make a person feel like nothing, and that person realizes and feels that they are nothing, then you should expect anything from them.
You have nothing to lose.
Because they have nothing to lose. And this is something we have to focus on, not just for Israel, but also for ourselves over here. If I may just add one thing. Utah, by the way, I've been to many events and had, dialogues for the past 2 years. But I noticed for the past 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, and today, I have never felt more comfortable talking about this toxic event as I have in Utah. Doesn't mean I want to come back here, so rest assured. But
His board was scared that he told me that he was getting pushback on his board about him coming here because he thought we were secretly trying to get him back to Utah.
no, but there's another part to it as well. What some of them said is, we hope you don't come back in a casket.
No.
So that's another reality too. So in other words, our realities are shaped by our economic position and the news that at times surround us. Listen to the news less, number one. Look at the facts, number two. Realize this is nothing new. Understand God created you and I for a purpose, and the purpose is not to be in fear. And you only have fear because of things you don't know. You've exposed yourself profoundly, and guess what? You don't have to use your life insurance. You'll be living here alive.
So I like that. So I think something that we can do, our synagogue has a wellness center that we just opened to use for groups like Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, other groups to come there. And somebody who was in recovery came to our synagogue to the wellness room. And he said during the meeting, and the folks there were very embarrassed he said this, but I was really touched by it. He said, I've never liked Jews, and I've always had a prejudice against Jews, and I always thought if I ever went to a synagogue, it'd be probably to burn it down. And you people are nice people. I like it here. Thanks for opening your space for us. And that like made my, and they came up to me after, oh, we're so sorry, we're embarrassed that happened. It made my day, because I think what a unintended consequence of the 2005 disengagement, which I think there was good intention behind, was that it gave children in Gaza, especially since 50% of the population of Gaza is under the age of 18, and the Gaza disengagement was 20 years ago. That means that a majority of people in Gaza, if they've ever interacted with a Jew, it was an Israeli soldier, and not in a positive way. And so something I think that we can do, and this is part of why we did all this tonight, is, like you said, Rebecca, with your question, maybe some people here have never met an Israeli and see Israelis as bad people and Zionists who want to kill somebody once told me a Zionist is somebody who wants to kill every Arab and every Muslim. And I'm a major Zionist. That's not how I feel. I'm glad you're here. And I've heard people say, well, all Palestinians are animals and they want to kill Jews. And all Muslims feel this way. And part of what this is about, too, is, and this is kind of the key with interfaith, is not to come to agreement, but for us to get exposure to each other and to different ideas that challenge our own. Hannah, were you going to
I
add?
want to say something like to conclude that, first of all, if you leave this meeting and you want to, okay, so what's next? So I want to invite you to stay involved, and you are welcome to follow us in Facebook, to join our newsletter and see what we're doing. We have a monthly webinars in English, so you can follow that. You can just Google Rossing Center, and you'll find also our contact details. So if you want to have a question, a personal question, and continue the conversation online, you're welcome to do that as well. I wanted to try to engage between you and your friends and partners in dialogue, to sit with them and try to openly talk about the fears and talk about the challenges and talk about the dilemmas, and to challenge yourself to listen, really listen to what they're saying, and not try to analyze and justify and correct them in your mind. And to be open, and I would like to quote one of the students that yesterday, after we had a very good engagement in the University of Utah, came to me and said, I was so intimidated to deal with this thing of Israel-Palestine, but now, after this conversation, you gave me food for thought. I want to think, what am I going to do about it? Mm-hmm. So I want to encourage you, as John's father said, what are you going to do about it, and how you can work within your community
Thank you.
for the coming future.
Thank you. And, we recently had a tragic event that happened here in Utah that made global news, and that was the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Whether you love Charlie Kirk or you hate Charlie Kirk, it was a tragedy what happened. But he said something that I strongly agree with, even though I disagree with a lot of other things he said, which was when people stop talking, people would say, why do you do this? Why do you do this work? And he said, because when people stop talking, that's when violence happens. And so I think that we often all shut down when it comes to this topic because it is so sensitive. And by the way, tonight, I don't care if any of you didn't change your minds at all about Israel or Palestine. Like, that wasn't the goal of tonight, was to get you to feel one way or the other. What I do care about is if you thought carefully about, how do I hear people who have differing views than mine? How do I hold space for other people's pain? How do I hold space for other people's stories and experiences? And when we can start to do that, even if we don't agree, and it sounds like I disagree with all of you on some stuff, and you all disagree with me on some stuff, how can we still see holiness in each other and in each other's experiences, and recognize that when I create a better world for John and his family to live in, that creates a better world for Hannah and for me and my family and for Imam Metar's community too. So that's what I hope we take away from this. I want to thank our panelists who traveled from California and from across the world, and also a big thank you. A big thank you to Mr. and Mrs. Simnani back there also, who invested in making this happen. I think that, the Simnanis have been on a mission to make our world kinder. I think that's what we got tools to do tonight. Thank you all. It's like 9:30 almost. I'm shocked and so impressed that you guys stayed the whole time. Show that this was this event. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. Hey, come here, young man. Please come back to you. That was wonderful. Thank you. I hope